company on mobile. So who are Nanigans? So John's covered off some of the stuff I'm actually going to present in this presentation, so I'll make sure that I don't repeat anything that he's said. But so Nanigans is also a Facebook PMD. I think there's around 300 Facebook PMDs in the world. They all do different marketing functions on Facebook. I think there's around 50 which are ads optimization partners, which is the category that Nanigans falls into. So we work on the Facebook API, and we're a buy-side platform for Facebook advertising. So essentially a DSP for Facebook advertising. So a little bit about the history of Nanigans, of who we are and where we came from. So we started in Boston around 3 years ago. We started our life as a Facebook games discovery platform, so completely different from what we do now. But amongst our clients, which were the big social gaming companies, we saw a big opportunity for ads optimization and the philosophy of optimizing towards lifetime value. So we started with casual game companies, so the likes of Zynga, the likes of EA, they're still our clients today, always with this philosophy of optimizing towards predictive lifetime value. So what does predictive lifetime value mean? So rather than just optimizing towards first purchase or first transaction, we will track, using our tracking beyond first transaction to any transactions in an unwindowed or windowed period to establish the value of the traffic source from where that user came. So on Facebook, you can imagine you've got this huge universe of people on there that you can target and a huge variety of targeting options. But what our software looks to do is to establish which of those audiences have which value downstream, whether you're a game developer or you're an e-commerce player, finance or travel. So this is what our client base looks like now. The blue represents e-commerce, the orange represents gaming. So we kind of became number one in the gaming space, so we then went out into e-commerce, because if you think about the conversion funnel of a retailer, what they desire is high-value users that give you repeat purchases. And is exactly the same as you get in e-commerce. So that's Nanigans. We're now operating in 4 offices across the States, an office in London where I work, and 2 offices in Asia. We generally target advertisers directly, and they tend to be in the sort of tier 1 category. So how much ad spend are we running on Facebook? So we manage around $350 million worth of ad spend last year on Facebook, which puts us in a pretty good position to be able to describe what's happening in the Facebook ecosystem, what are the opportunities, and how you can push performance marketing at scale. So I've broken this down into the ABC of Facebook advertising, and the A being the ads, so the creative that you serve on Facebook. The B are the buyers, so the audience that you're attempting to attract with these very ads. And the cost is the bidding, so how much you're prepared to pay for a user within a particular audience on Facebook. Sorry, I'm just going to have a drink of water. So let's go back to 2007, 2008, when Facebook ads first began. They were incredibly small. The click-through rates were 0.05%. They were heavily criticized by CMOs and marketeers and agencies alike for being too peripheral to the user experience, not engaging enough, and not delivering enough ROI. And they progressed. They became more social with additions like the like button. And then they progressed into the newsfeed, which gave better CTRs and better performance, but they were still very text-heavy and not giving performance marketing what it needed from Facebook as a publisher. But then around 2 years ago, Facebook started allowing the publishing of large image-based ads within the newsfeed, which gave much better interaction from the clients. It was much more with the context of the environment that it was being served. They then went out onto mobile and started serving ads in the newsfeed, so mobile app install ads and click-to-web ads. And you might have seen Facebook's share price rising dramatically over the last year, and that's mainly down to the advent of their mobile advertising success. I believe that Facebook is now the biggest supplier of mobile advertising in the world. So what about performance from these newsfeeds ads? So CTR goes up, ROI goes dramatically up, and initially costs went down. But now we're seeing costs in the newsfeed dramatically rising due to competitiveness in the market. So in the audience, when you look at Facebook, What percentage of the items in your newsfeed do you believe are ads? Does anyone have an idea? No? More than 20? Okay, so that could be right for you. So the way that the Facebook algorithm works is that the more you click on ads, the more ads they're going to give you, because they're assuming that if you click more, you like ads. But on average, it's only 5% of items that you see in the newsfeed. So it could be less than that for some users who never click on the ads. But the message here is that creative is incredibly important to get the creative right, because another part of the Facebook ad serving algorithm is that you can the user will only see one ad for one product per day. So within the particular audience that you're advertising, you've got to have an ad that resonates really well with that audience to get them to click and to get them engaged and get them into your conversion funnel. So I'm not going to go over all the things John spoke about, but I'm going to talk about the audience metrics that are available and how we hit up customers on Facebook. So the main metrics of targeting on Facebook, the sort of more traditional methods, are age, gender, geo, different interests, connectivity, different mobile device, place of work, relationship status, and so on and so forth. And the beauty of Facebook is that, unlike other ad networks, like I've worked at ad networks before where we offered all of those targeting metrics, but as soon as you started applying those targeting metrics, you got no volume. But the difference is with Facebook, there's huge volume on there, so you can target very minutely and still get traffic and understand the performance of those minute targeting options. So what's happened more recently? So John touched on this, the advent of custom audiences, being able to upload and match your audience against Facebook data. And what we found is real power from these lookalikes of your custom audiences. And just to give you some stats on this, around 65% of the impressions that we serve across the Nanigans platform at the moment are on lookalikes of custom audiences. So, and that's because we're seeing such high ROI from these types of audiences. And as such, we've innovated in this space to help our advertisers get more out of that. So you can use, on one hand, the Facebook lookalike tool, and then Nanigans has also developed the Nanigans Affinity Analysis tool, which looks at high keyword density within your high-value audiences, and then looks to find other audiences on Facebook that have a similar density of those high-density keywords. So it's just bringing more lookalike audiences to the table, because that's definitely the best performing metric right now. So what came next? So another sort of recent advent on Facebook is retargeting, as John mentioned. Nanigans can retarget on Facebook for you. Here are some stats associated with it. So we find that, well, the ads first appeared on the right-hand side. They weren't particularly effective in retargeting. They then appeared in the news feed and became much, much more effective in terms of ROI. But the best way that we found to serve retargeting ads on Facebook is by using dynamic creative. So serving specific pieces of creative that relate or correlate to the part of the conversion funnel where your user lapsed. And you can also storyboard these creatives so that if over a period of time, you can serve a user different parts of creative to bring them back into your user funnel and hopefully convert them. So still to this day, we meet this objection, which is, maybe so, but my audience just doesn't use Facebook, which always meets us with utmost surprise, because the evidence is clearly against this opinion. And Facebook's traffic right now runs at over 1 billion monthly active users. So some of your audience is on Facebook somewhere, and you can drive performance from it. But this in itself brings further problems. This is a huge universe of users, and it's very hard to find your actual users on Facebook, which is where ad tech or using a PMD comes in, because we can help you to do that. Using the Facebook native tool is very hard to actually find users that drive conversions and drive ROI. And using a tool like Probelad or Nanigans helps you to do that. There's also been some commentary in the news that you might have seen recently about Facebook losing its more younger age group to other apps like Snapchat and WhatsApp. And this is definitely true, but on the other end of the scale, in the age groups of 44 to 45, there is a huge growth in Facebook users. So now your mum is on Facebook. And also, your mum probably is potentially a better target for a number of different advertisers than the 13 to 21-year-old. So the audience is huge. So now going more back to Nanigans and our philosophy and what we do. So I mentioned predictive lifetime value at the start of this presentation, and I'll do my best to describe what that exactly is, because I was drawn to Nanigans as an employee by this concept of optimizing towards LTV, because that's what I heard my advertiser clients talking about. So I arrived at Nanigans and really wanted to explain to me immediately how they're exactly doing this. So Facebook has a huge amount of different audiences you can target, and we will serve ads into those different audiences, and then we will run traffic from those ads, because you can't optimize towards LTV until you have some downstream value data. So to start with, we will start a campaign. We have no knowledge of what the downstream value data is going to be. We will run traffic, but then over time we can start to establish that a female that lives in Ireland who's interested in golf has a different value to a man who lives in London and is interested in football. And be running traffic from these two different audiences, establishing what the projected lifetime value is over time. Once we've achieved statistical confidence against that audience or traffic source, then we can start to make our bid more elastic, or move the bid up or down based on what we perceive to be the value downstream. And so at this point, I still didn't understand it. So I asked an engineer to more succinctly describe exactly how our optimization works. And he said this, and I wrote it down. And he said, Ad Engine is the name of our software, by the way. Ad Engine uses automation to distinguish between ads that have good value downstream and ads that are likely throwing money away. Good ads survive and bad ads are killed. We iterate some new ads and repeat. So effectively, we're looking to mine Facebook for which creatives and which audience work for the particular thing that you're looking to convert from Facebook. So the first thing that we would engage upon is creative testing. So within an audience, you'd want to test which creatives resonate best with that particular audience. So you might start with 6 different creatives that you're testing against each other. And we would want to test creative against upstream conversion metrics such as CTR, or CPA, or registration, before we get down the conversion funnel to value. So we test 6 creatives, and over the next few days, we discover that 4 of those creatives perform better than the other 2, so we pause those 2 down. We then iterate some new creative that comes in behind that. That new creative is tested, and the winning creative from that bracket will go on to be pushed and competed against the future performing creative. And this process then continues, and we constantly iterate new creative, and we constantly refresh creative. So let's look at an example of some targeting, and I'd just like to sort of bring some meat to how complicated this gets on Facebook, because Facebook is actually probably the most complex, or one of the most complex channels in online marketing, up there with prospecting on display. So let's imagine we want to target to start with one gender. We want to target, within that gender, we're going to target 8 different interests. And then we're going to target 4 different regions. And we're a retailer, and we want to promote 5 different products. So just by promoting 5 different products, which is obviously going to be a very small percentage of your actual SKUs, that would in itself create 160 different segments or combinations of those variables. So even with 5 products, with only 3 levels of targeting, we have 160 different things that we can move the lever up or down on in optimizing it. So if you're working with Facebook directly, this would be a manual process of moving bids up and down. And if you're advertising 100 products, you can see how complicated it would get. So a system or a PMD like Nanigans will help you to automate that process and handle it and optimize in real time. So we push those ads out onto Facebook, and then this rather complicated algorithm that you can just see here is the Nanigans system calculating which of those ads are good and which ads are bad. And then the good ads will continue, and the bad ads will leave and be paused down. So creative is incredibly important on Facebook. And we would argue that a successful Facebook campaign is incorporated at 50% creative and 50% targeting plus algorithm. And the planning of creative iteration is extremely important, and delivery and how often you refresh. You might need a resource internally for a big Facebook campaign. You might need to employ the services of a marketing agency, but your creative team is going to be very important to the success of the campaign. So just looking at this graph here, we're looking at how click-through rate, how creative refresh affects click-through rate. So imagine if those dots from left to right are weeks. This advertiser is refreshing every 3 weeks, and you can see that every time they refresh their creative, their CTR goes up. So if your click-through rate of an ad goes up, that means that your ROI is going to increase because your cost of media has gone down. So this is an important lever that you can pull in optimizing on Facebook. So I'm now going to talk about what success means from a Facebook advertising campaign. So success means different things to different advertisers. You might be optimizing towards a cost per lead. You might be optimizing towards minimized CPA, or you might be optimizing to ROI or to predictive lifetime value. So Nanigans has its own views of what the best optimization metrics are, but we can optimize towards any of those metrics. So in order to look forward, it's important to look back. I'm just going to take you through the performance marketing acronyms as we started on the internet. So we started with CPM, so borrowed from display media in newspapers and billboards and TV. You pay for users to view your ad. And then the next level came CPC, made most famous by Google AdWords, so showing a much higher level of intent and engagement because a user is actually attracted to your ad and they've clicked on it. Moving through to CPL, so you've gone beyond the click and you've captured the user's details. So then you can remarket to that user and it shows a lot more level of engagement. Then CPA, which is probably the most common form of optimization in performance marketing right now. So it's optimizing towards cost of media versus revenue from first purchase. Then moving on to ROIs, so some sort of performance over time metric or return on ad spend over time metric. And then moving on to the most purest form of optimization, so lifetime value. So understanding which audiences give you which value downstream and allowing your bid to be elastic on Facebook. So to give you an example, if you find that a particular audience, so whether it be a male who lives in Ireland and is interested in golf, you understand that historically you've run clicks from that profile on Facebook, that audience on Facebook, and over time you've established an average conversion rate and an average basket value from that particular audience. So you know that in the future, if CPMs go up, you have the ability to adjust your bid to go up, to stay in line with CPMs and still buy those users while still hitting your return on investment targets. So in this room, whoever's running advertising campaigns, who's optimizing towards a CPA? Okay, cool. And so those of you that are optimizing towards a CPA, do you desire to improve your ROI? The answer is yes. Okay, so at Nanigans, within the Facebook environment, we would argue that this is the wrong metric of optimization. Not the wrong metric, but it won't give you the optimal ROI that is available from this traffic source. And I'll explain why. So let's look at a user case. So we're running a campaign for Louis Vuitton. This customer is called Penelope. She's clearly a fan of Louis Vuitton, and she likes their page on Facebook. We start the campaign. On day one, we buy her as a user. She comes in and she buys this bag, this pair of shoes, and another bag. So an excellent customer to bring into our conversion funnel and a successful piece of advertising. On the same day, Thomas, also clearly a fan of Louis Vuitton, his car is plastered in Louis Vuitton logos, but potentially not the kind of customer we may want to acquire. He comes into our website and he buys the cheapest t-shirt that he can find. So let's consider if we were buying on a CPA in this particular context. Thomas is a cheap user to buy. Other advertisers don't compete for him. He clicks on ads a lot, so his CPA is actually quite low. It's only $2. Whereas Penelope, she doesn't click on ads very much, but she is being competed heavily over by other advertisers who understand she sits within a high-value audience segment. So if our CPA target here was $5, so we buy no more users over the price of $5, Penelope would not have been acquired, and obviously from the amount she bought, she very much should be. And this is brought more to the fore here by two graphs I'm going to show you, which this is obviously taken from my American friends, this graph, but this looks at a period of advertising through November, including Thanksgiving weekend, which on Facebook, and I'm sure other traffic sources, the CPMs go through the roof because a lot of people are at home on the internet, and also a lot of people are buying stuff. Statistics have shown that basket sizes and revenue acquired during this weekend are particularly high. So this looks an example of a CPA advertiser going into Thanksgiving weekend. It looks to me from this graph like their CPA target is around just under $4. So as they go into the weekend, the CPMs go through the roof, so their CPA goes dramatically through the roof, so they stop buying and their registrations go down or whatever acquisitions they're doing, and they acquire very few users during that period because the CPMs are too high. But you compare that to an advertiser that's optimizing towards predictive lifetime value, and during that weekend, when the CPCs go up, they know in which audiences they can also raise their bids to still keep getting impressions and still buying users because they're seeing the revenue coming in at the other end, and they know the projected value of the particular audience segments they're driving traffic in. So they can create elasticity in their bid and manage the market that is volatile more effectively. So I've taken you through a sort of brief history of Facebook marketing and how ad tech plays its role and how different optimization metrics can benefit your business. So a lot has changed on Facebook over the last 2 years. If you're advertising Facebook, how have you? Is there any questions? Go ahead.
It's really more a statement. If more and more advertising goes on Facebook, more and more people are going to get fed up with it, right? Because
Yeah.
it's become an ad-based situation. And how do you feel that ratio is going to work when you've got such things as ad busters that more and more people are going to start using? And I'm just wondering, where do you see the platform going, and how do you see the future?
So the future is, I mean, it's an interesting point you make. So the future is that, so there's two kind of things there. There's the competitiveness between advertisers and then getting performance from Facebook. Then there's the user experience and how that's going to be affected. So Facebook has, because it only makes money from advertising, it has to be sensitive to its user base. So if its user base they're going to be analyzing this in great detail, I'm sure. But if its user base starts leaving in droves, then they're going to have to reduce the advertising. And the other part is, as I mentioned near the start of the presentation, there's only one ad for one advertiser being shown per day to the user, and they're serving less ads to users who don't click, who clearly don't like advertising. So, but from an advertiser's point of view, definitely at the moment, the CPMs are going up and up and up and up. And this in some way helps us because we can help them to overcome that. But there will be a limit when CPMs get too high, and some advertisers can't afford to play ball. But with all of these social networks, it's like they are a business. They do need to make money, and they can only exist. Facebook's IPO'd, etc. And every other new social network that comes along needs to monetize in some way or the other. But I agree, you can't plaster Facebook full of ads. There needs to be control, and there needs to be a limit. And ultimately, in the near term, it's CPMs are going to rise and rise and rise. I think Facebook will turn it around somewhat with their video advertising they're bringing out. It depends how much backlash they get from users from their video advertising, because I think what they're about to start doing is autoplay non-sound videos on desktop to begin with. So yeah, but I know that Facebook are extremely sensitive to this problem because this is the only way they can make money. So that's mine. Go ahead.
Is a multi-touch approach making any play in your lifetime value calculation? So whether traffic that came through Facebook can touch AdWords as well, does that play any role?
So yes, it does. So, and this is often part of the conversation when we're talking to e-commerce players. So they'll do attribution studies or daisy chain studies to work out where Facebook sits in their conversion funnel, what the order of weighting should be put against it. And what we want them to do is, rather than take guesswork on where it sits in the conversion funnel, we want them to conduct an attribution study to actually find out where it does fit in the conversion funnel. And we work with a lot of advertisers that will place different weighting on, they'll pass us back different amounts of revenue based on when the user converts. So we fit in with their attribution play. So yes, it does, but it's something that's happening at advertiser level, and we're working with them rather than incorporating it into our platform. However, it is something we are considering incorporating into our platform. All done? All right, well, thanks very much, guys.
Questions?